Good afternoon, everybody. This is the Planning and Zoning Commission of the City of Socorro, Texas. It is May 7th, 2024, 5:30 PM. We call this meeting to order.
Good afternoon. Item number 2, establishment of quorum. Andrew Arroyos,
Here.
Enrique Cisneros,
Here.
David Estrada,
Here.
Julie Dominguez, absent. Osvaldo Reza,
Here.
Yolanda Rodriguez.
Here.
We have a quorum with 5 commissioners present. Item number 3, notice to the public, open forum. Alfredo, do we have anyone that would like to speak?
No.
Thank you. Item number 4, consent agenda.
I make a motion.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to approve and second by Enrique Cisneros. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstain? Motion carried. Item number 5, consider and take action on the approval of a proposed amendment to the City of Socorro Master Plan and on the approval of a proposed preliminary and final plan with the waiver requests for the Carlos H. Trujillo Place subdivision being track 12E3, Block 14, Socorro Grant, located at 300 Place Road, Socorro, Texas. Mr. Botello?
Good evening, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. Jose Botello, planner with the City of Socorro. Item number 5 on the agenda is the Carlos H. Trujillo Place subdivision. And I'll give Alfredo a few moments to load the presentation. Okay, all right. So some general information on this subdivision. The property owner is Mr. Carlos Trujillo. He's present at today's meeting. The lot size is 1.8942 acres. The property is currently zoned A1, which is agricultural. Current land use is residential. The future land use map had this property listed as rural residential. And so the summary of the request is for approval of a preliminary and final plat with a waiver request for the Carlos H. Trujillo Place subdivision. And planning and zoning staff recommends approval of the preliminary and final plat for the Carlos H. Trujillo Place subdivision and recommends approval of the waiver for the soils report only. And so in the next slide, you'll see the location map. This property is situated along Place Road, followed by the zoning map. You'll see the area of the subdivision in red. The green color denotes the A1 agricultural zoning district. And then followed by an aerial image. And then in the property pictures, you'll see a couple of pictures taken from Place Road. And you can see that there's, in the bottom picture, you can see that there's currently 2 structures in the property. And then this is a waiver request letter submitted by Mr. Trujillo's engineers requesting a waiver for the soils report and for the stormwater drainage plan, which are requirements typically requested for every subdivision. And so in the next slide, you'll see the preliminary plat, which shows the conditions of the site currently. You can see on the top left, a small rectangle. It's one of the homes. And then on the, I guess the middle right area, you'll see the second residence. And then the final plat, which is taking one lot, splitting it into 2 lots. And so the summary of the request is for approval of a preliminary and final plat with a waiver request for the Carlos H. Trujillo Place subdivision. And at this time, staff can answer any questions.
question. So there's no new construction coming up or whatnot, right? So in the future, let's say we waive it, in the future, if they do start any new construction or whatnot, they would have to pull whatever necessary, correct? Those reports, if they had any new development on that lot, correct?
Correct. So that's one of the reasons. That's the reason why the soils report is being waived. Our recommendation is to approve the waiver for that. Since there's currently 2 existing properties, right? I mean,
Right.
the soils report it's a report that lets us know the adequacy of the soil for new developments, and because there's been residents or 2 residences that have existed, it's proof that the soil is sufficient for the area.
Yes, sir.
But the other portion, which is the stormwater drainage plan, it typically, lets us know where the ponding areas will be
Right.
placed, so, it makes sense to require them.
Oh, I get it. Thank you.
What?
Any questions?
What year were the existing homes built?
Okay. Okay. So according to,
That's fair, it's older construction, 30, 40 years.
Mhm.
Okay.
No questions? No questions?
I don't have any.
No?
And I'll make a they're asking for the only the soils report to be
Waived off,
waived, only the soils one
and the storm drain.
and the storm drain one? Okay, perfect. No?
That's what they're requesting, right? But staff recommendation is that,
Staff recommendation is only
recommendations for
asking-
approval, but just for the soils report only, right?
for the waiver,
Of the water.
the waiver would be approved or recommended to be, staff recommends approval of waiving the soils report.
Right, but on the letter in the back, it's saying that they want to waive the stormwater drainage plan and they want to waive the soils analysis test. So is it for both of them or just for one?
Staff is only recommending to waive the soils report.
So if we approve, we'd be approving both today?
Well,
Well-
we can approve it either way, right? We can approve it with no exclusion, so they have to do the soil study and they have to do the water,
Drainage plan.
Stormwater drainage plan?
stormwater drainage plan. Or we could do one or both. I mean, we could do it any way you
At
want.
this point,
The-
there's no
the-
departing,
the
I would say
confu-
with both.
Yeah, the confusion here is, my confusion is, staff recommends approval of the preliminary and final plat for the subdivision and recommends approval of the waiver for the
Soils.
soils report only. So the way I interpret that is, okay, let's give them the soils report, let's not worry about that, but let's still make sure that they have the water, drainage plan,
Which is basically the ponding area.
yeah.
Correct.
Which, the-
It doesn't make sense, yeah. Exactly. At this point, if I understood it correct, the way we're understanding it, we would like to approve it with, or I'll make the motion to approve it with the soils report and the ponding area waived as well. That'll work. Anybody else would have questions?
So tell us again why staff is requesting that they include the stormwater protection plan?
So our chapter 38 subdivisions, in the, I believe it's Article 2 subdivision standards. It outlines all the required reports that are typically provided to our departments with new subdivisions. And so, based on the fact that Mr. Trujillo stated that his house was built over 30 years, right, it proves that the adequacy of the soil is not an issue, but with events of flooding, stuff like that, the stormwater drainage plan lets us know, what the plan of action is for having a ponding area in the property. And so, just for reasons of, safety and having, that report, that document, you never know when a catastrophic flood would occur. Just for the safety of Mr. Trujillo, it would be asked that they present the stormwater drainage plan so we know, that they have an adequate ponding area in the property. And that's being requested because the property is in tract form, so him subdividing, it's considered a brand new subdivision, right? So it's part of the requests that are typically asked for in new developments or new subdivisions.
Okay, does the code or the ordinance, does it distinguish between larger subdivisions and smaller subdivisions like this one?
No, there's no mention of, there's no distinguishing.
Okay. What does council, any suggestions or any, because I understand what you're saying, because it's in the ordinance, it's in the code, right, that it be requested. And we're being asked to potentially not include it. But is there any danger there?
Yeah, I think I can maybe help explain the reason behind it. So, because it's being subdivided into two, correct?
Correct.
So, right now you've got basically the joint owner that owns the whole thing together. If there's a ponding issue because he owns the whole property, he can figure it out because he controls the whole thing. If you approve the preliminary final plat, it cuts it into two. Potentially, he could sell one of the properties to somebody else. If he did that, that neighbor may not get along with the previous owner or the next door owner. They're gonna have then a ponding issue to figure out, wait a minute, all my water's draining onto your land or vice versa. And so then that's why, I think to eliminate any confusion in the future, that's why it's requiring that plan, because there's no unity of ownership. That's really the legal term of it.
Right.
So, but you're right, I think the bigger problem usually is if you were creating a subdivision of 20 homes, then you need to have a
Right.
plan in place. That's not, I think, what really is the situation. It's just that once you cut that property into two, you're gonna have to figure out how to drain the property.
And so I think I heard the owner say he was selling. Is that correct? Or the intent is to split it so that it can be sold?
If you want to just state your name, Mr. Trujillo.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Hi, hello. I thought I heard you mention that, or let me ask you, what's the intention for the lot split? Is there intention to sell one of the?
No, not really. I just wanted to transfer it over to one of my grandsons. I have no intention of selling right now.
Okay. Okay, that's my question. Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah, so I think we're only talking about 1.8 acres. So, I mean, I like, you're talking about 20 lots, then I can look at maybe some storm drain issue.
Correct.
But
I wouldn't
you're
worry
looking
about
at-
it here.
You're looking at an acre of property, but you're just gonna split somewhere, you know? So, yeah, I don't have a problem with that.
I have
Go
one
ahead.
last question.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I don't see it in here. Maybe it's in here. But what would be the size of lot 1, or the small lot?
Lot 1 would be about 0.34, 0.35 acres, about 15,000 square feet.
About a third of an acre. About 15.
Correct.
0.15.
Mhm.
Or say that again.
15,000.
Point like 35,
0.35.
somewhere along. I know it's it's around 15,000 square feet.
Okay. I'm just looking. I'm looking at an odd sized lot. There's already a structure there. If he's gonna transfer title, but it could be sold at any point in the future. So I'm thinking, you know, you never know, somebody might come up, ask for a permit. At that point, you'll require, like, if someone comes in with request the permit to build new construction on there, for example. At that point, would you require ponding on that lot, correct?
And
But-
soils
but-
test at that point. at the
But there
moment.
wouldn't be a subdivision ponding plan in place or water drainage plan in place if it's not approved or if,
It also depends on what's stated on the plat, because typically it is a note on the plats. It just depends the wording. Sometimes it says on-site ponding will be required at the time of requesting building permits. Typically, those are like typical notes, but yeah, the intent is to have, you know, that stormwater drainage plan so that in the future, you know, if the grandson decides to sell, there is that designated ponding area for that property. There's no trouble, right? So it can be requested also with the building permits, but it's something that's typically addressed or a requirement outlined in Chapter 38 of our code. And it does state that council is the entity that that grants the waivers. So these are, you know, just recommendations from staff. So you're also at the discretion to waive both requirements or just one.
okay. So the only thing that crosses my mind is, I understand what the comments are, that it's a really small lot, very rare there are any issues with flooding, right? This is a 500-year flood or something, but the question that I have is when it comes to permitting sometime in the future, it becomes a mess, trying to figure it all out and putting ponding in there, and do you really need it? And that's the only thing. So I think it'd be wise to put in a grading plan since now, a drainage plan since now in this mini subdivision. And I'm saying just so it eliminates any future issues. But it is a very small parcel, so those are my thoughts.
So I'll put a little bit more, I mean, if he's trying to leave it within the family, and also it's currently used as agricultural, which they currently farm that land. Is there a way we can put, like, if in the event he was to sell it, or new owner, aside from his, or they try to develop new construction, then at that point, new ponding area would be required, and that's something that can be redeveloped.
I think that's something that would have to come from council, because at the end of the day, you know, the Planning and Zoning Commission is also offering a recommendation. So something I think like that would have to be.
So if I can, I'd like to, if possible, right? I mean, to make a motion to approve with both waivers, stating that if new construction was to ever get developed there, or any new permits are gonna be pulled, then at that point, we have to require soils test and ponding area plats.
Yeah, I'll jump in here. So it's not a bad idea. It's just, I don't know how the city can enforce it. I think that's the problem is that. Because if you say whenever it's sold, how long into the future that goes? 50 years from now? 100
No.
years?
Any
Or the next
new
one.
construction, yeah, any new construction that was to come about per that specific lot, right? Or any new, yeah, and any new
Yeah.
construction, because there's a current structure in that current building. I mean, and it's been like that for the last 30 years. If they're just gonna split it so that where the nephew can start building a portfolio or something, or the grandson, then if in the future he decides he wants to do new construction or whatnot, then at that point.
There's like, you know, there's like a few, like a trigger points where it can come back to planning zoning in the future, like if they do another replat, if they do a rezoning again, if, you know, but I don't know how to make it enforceable because, as planning zoning was mentioning that it'll go on the plat notes. I don't know, it's just a little bit too indefinite. So I'm not sure how they can make that
Yeah,
enforceable.
it's a a good question.
Yeah, and the problem is that the city doesn't necessarily know when something gets sold back and forth. Property tax people know, but the city planning would never know. You could sell it 20 times over and it, changes hands and it doesn't come here. It has to come here because it came on an application for something.
And that's fine. I mean,
Yeah.
if they sell it 20 times, if that's okay, to where we put it to where if they're gonna do new construction in that specific lot, then at that point, we'd require ponding platting, or, something like that. Because the sale, like you said, yeah, it could be sold 20 times, but the worry here isn't of the sale. The worry is about the water going somewhere left or right, or to somebody else's property, right? Then at that point, because it's currently used for agricultural, it's currently used for planting, so just,
Also wanted to point out that Mr. Trujillo's representative, Mr. Enrique Ayala's present, and he'd like to provide some comments on this subdivision.
Let's go ahead.
So
Afternoon.
Enrique Ayala with CAT Consulting, we're doing the subdivision plat. As far as dividing and for what you're asking is grading and drainage plans, but for that's when you're gonna do any new construction. This is gonna stay the same. So I could put a note on there, any new development, a grading plan is required for any future building permits that'll get pulled. And anytime someone goes and pulls a building permit, they should be supplying a grading and drainage plan for on-site ponding. And right now, we're not doing
Exactly.
any new
Like the
construction.
planters, yeah.
I didn't have the word to say it. I said ponding area, but yeah, I mean, so if we can work something out like that to where we can make that motion to approve it that way, that when somebody's gonna pull building permits, then at that point, we require the soils test and the, what was it called?
The grading and drainage
The
plan.
grading and drainage plans, then,
I think I'm fine. So the applicant is then in agreement with that if the planning
Yes,
zoning?
any new, future new developments, any new building permits or any permits, a grading plan would be required.
Okay.
Okay. So you would put that on the plan?
Yes, yeah,
Okay.
and I use that for the city of El Paso, any notes on there.
so I'll make a motion to approve the waiver of the soils, the soil, what was it? The soils report waiver and the grading and drainage report,
Yes.
with the condition that the engineer will state that any new improvements, at the time of pulling permits, we will require the soils or the grading and drainage plans.
Yes,
And I think if you just want to add, and you are approving the final, the preliminary and final plat as well?
Yes.
Yeah, with those conditions that you stated.
I second.
I have a motion made by Osvaldo Reza to approve the preliminary and final plat and to waive the soil report and water drainage plan into new improvements are made and for yes, for the water and grading plans to be waived into new improvements, and for the consultant to add on the milers, on the plat, the condition?
Correct.
Yes.
That at the time of any new construction or new permits would be pulled, then we would require the soils and grading and drainage plans.
And at the time that any new construction or development is made, it is required for the soil report and the water and grading drainage plan to be present. Do you have all those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstain? Motion carried. Item number 6, Planning and Zoning Commission report.
I'd like to report.
Cisneros?
So Coral's Developmental Baseball League has started practicing. So we're still looking for 7, 8, 9, and 10-year-olds to play. Give us a call. You can call Laura across the street at, what department is that? Parks and Rec, or
Yes.
the Parks Department? I need,
Recreation.
Parks and Recreation. I still need 3 more players, so if you want to play for me, give us a call. We're online, Vegas Cisneros Insurance. But yeah, baseball, baseball, baseball. It's gonna be great.
Have the schedules been like handed when, like practices and stuff like that?
So we're practicing Mondays and Wednesdays at Ernesto Serna at 5:30. There's other teams practicing across the street at 5 o'clock, Mondays, and I think Wednesdays as well. But we're practicing Mondays and Wednesdays at Ernesto Serna, so anybody can, all are welcome. 7 to 10-year-olds, both boys and girls.
Perfect. Item number 7, Planning and Zoning Department report. Nothing? Okay. Item number 8, consider and take action on the adjournment of this meeting. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
I have a motion made by Andrew Arroyos to adjourn, second by Osvaldo Reza. All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? Any abstain? Motion carried. Meeting adjourned at 5:56 PM. Thank you.
Were you done or not? You were done or no? You were done or you were gonna talk?